Brenden Ciaran Browne. He's an Associate Professor for Conflict Resolution and Reconciliation at Trinity College in Dublin, joining us from Belfast in Ireland. When you listen to a story like Maha, and I know that you have worked in this region extensively, it's difficult to understand how this is even allowed to happen. Israel ordered that evacuation of people ahead of what is most likely going to be a ground offensive in northern Gaza. Is this their way somehow of trying to preempt any criticism of violating international rules, which many say they've already done?
Well, yeah, thanks again for having me on. This is truly devastating, and I send my solidarity to all my friends and colleagues in Palestine. I don't actually think this is all that surprising. I mean, when you look at the history and you look at what's been going on in Gaza and you look at what's been going on in Palestine in general for the best part of 75 years, nothing here should surprise us at all. This is straight up out of the Israeli rulebook, and what's been happening is just the same thing time and time again. You have these tactics being used under a pretense of containing terrorism, or whatever that means. I mean, this is just purely and utterly shocking. And, to see Western superpowers fall in behind the Israelis, moving equipment into the Mediterranean Sea and effectively aiding and abetting what is going on is absolutely disgraceful and abhorrent. And anybody with any conscience whatsoever should be calling this exactly what it is. This is a war crime of epic proportions being played out on our TV screens.
So, Brenden, why do people not call that out more often, especially in the West, where we see countries like the US, like the UK, many in the EU saying Israel has a right to defend itself, which it does, but possibly the way that they are doing it right now and racking up the number of civilian casualties in Gaza is totally unethical.
Yeah, you're right. And the West doesn't call it out because the West is complicit in it. That's the simple fact of the matter. At the end of the day, the American government props up the Israeli war machine and has done from the foundation of the state. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not going to call themselves out on what they're getting up to. And, that idea of the right to defend itself is particularly interesting. People don't have the right to disproportionately level civilian areas. People don't have the right to force 1.2 million people into displacement and try and ethnically cleanse them from their homes. That idea of a right to defend yourself is complete pie in the sky when you look at what's going on the ground here. So this is just ridiculous.
So what about the response from the wider region, the Arab world, the Muslim world? Has it been good enough?
Well, I mean, I think more needs to be done, but if you look at in recent years what's been happening in terms of the normalization agreements that have been taking place between Israel and its some of its Arab neighbors, I mean, it's perhaps not that surprising to hear somewhat of a dumbed down response, but I would expect that there would be a stronger response, and make no mistake about this, it's the people that hold their governments to account. So if you look across the world, there are extremely large gatherings of support for the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian resistance. I mean, only look at reports coming out of Jordan in recent hours, actually, and on the streets, it's huge. So it remains to be seen what response is coming next.
And Brenden, right now, when we look at Gaza and the humanitarian situation, you have to wonder how much longer are people actually going to be able to make it? If you can't get fuel in, for example, you have no power. There are large parts of Gaza that are completely without power. We haven't even been able to talk live to some of our correspondents there. The fuel also is a part of what keeps the water clean, the desalination plants. Water is a basic human right. It's what sustains us. Without that, people are sitting ducks.
Yeah, this is what's happening. You're talking about, as I mentioned before, you're talking about war crimes. You're talking about crimes against humanity being carried out on your TV screens, being carried out live, and under the complicity of the Western governments who are allowing this to happen. I mean, you had Israeli spokespersons, the defence minister, going on and saying we're turning off all these things, and nobody blinked an eye in the West. You even had the British Prime Minister say that that was a proportionate response, or that was okay to do. This is, this is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, we need an urgent intervention right now. We need the international community to speak up very, very strongly, and bring this to an end. Otherwise, this is going to be a catastrophe of epic proportions.
Already playing out in Gaza right now. Brenden Ciaran Browne in Dublin, thank you so much.